I only need one shot.
We'll begin with the basics, item builds. Start off with a Doran's Blade, an HP potion, and a warding totem. The warding totem will help you ensure your safety in lane. Your next item is going to be a BF sword. Typically you want to stay in lane as long as you can until you have just enough gold to purchase it. From here, you want to make that BF sword into an infinity edge. Now once you grab your IE, you definitely want your Zerks and Zeal. Additionally, on the second buy, this is when it's most popular for Ashe mains to replace their warding totem for the Scrying Orb trinket. The Scrying Orb trinket works similar to Clairvoyance, but it's not as far, and it doesn't last as long. It's also not a replacement for a ward. They both have very different functions. There are many reasons to go either or for Static Shiv and Fanmancer, but as a general rule, if you need to wave clear, grab Static Shiv. For late game offensive items, there's Last Whisper and Bloodthirster. Now you gotta ask yourself, which one should you grab first? You can grab Last Whisper if you notice the enemy team is starting to stack armor already. If not, you could get the second damage item, the Bloodthirster, to punish them for not building any armor. Here you won't see Blade of the Ruined King, because it's notable to say that Bloodthirster, with Ashe's volley, does a lot more damage than if you were to grab Blade of the Ruined King. A reason why Blade of the Ruined King is popular is because of the slow it provides with its active, but when playing Ashe, you have a perma-slow on. Apart from this, the Blade of the Ruined King has an awesome synergy for high attack speed champions. Now Ashe is generally going to be using the volley a lot, so she might benefit a lot more from the AD she gets when buying the Bloodthirster rather than the Blade of the Ruined King. Additionally from this, Ashe has an awesome synergy with the Bloodthirster. Considering she crits with any enemy that has Frost Shot applied to them, it applies a crit damage, thus multiplying the extra AD you get from Bloodthirster. For late defensive items, there's Banshee's Veil and the Scimitar that upgrades from the Quick Silver Sash. Generally you want to grab Veil against enemy teams that have a strong initiation that you can't quite cleanse out of. Veil is fairly popular to build against champions that have knockups. For instance, Vi with her ultimate and Alistar with his WQ combo. The Scimitar, the upgraded version of Quicksilver Sash, is a popular choice against enemies that could suppress you, such as Malzahar, Warwick, or Skarner. Here's a little screenshot of popular pro player builds when playing Ashe. You'll notice that there's not very many defensive items. You'll also notice that the trinket, some of them have kept the warding totem. This is based on many factors, but the best way to determine whether you need either the Scrying Orb trinket or the warding totem is to play enough games and to see whether you'd benefit more having the warding trinket or the Scrying Orb trinket. You can pause the video here and take a moment to take in the pro player builds. For abilities and masteries, max W, Q, E, and of course R whenever you can. You always want to start with W first, the volley. It's super important early game for harass and to get that extra CS that you wouldn't be able to get without the use of the volley. You could argue getting Hawkshot as a second skill instead of Q when facing a jungler that poses as a threat early game, such as Evelyn, Lee Sin, Volibear, or Xin. This early game vision can be crucial to preventing enemy ganks. And it's also awesome how your Hawkshot is a global skill, so you could scout for your top lane too. For masteries, I run 21-9, which almost every Ashe player main does. In the description, I'll link to the Pro Build's website for Ashe, where you can compare the masteries between pro players. You'll notice that some players have things checked off differently in the offensive tree. Onto which masteries tree route is best, that depends on your playstyle and your team composition and enemy team composition. For summoner spells, you always want to grab Flash, that's a certain must. You need that as Ashe doesn't have any other escape. For your second summoner spell, definitely grab Heal. When using it, it of course gives you heal, but it also gives you a movement speed buff that can help you kite, escape the grasp of an enemy, or help you move fast enough so you could get that last auto attack on that enemy. And lastly, runes. Now for runes, it's pretty standard to run 80 runes so that you could last it early game. The flat armor seals helps you counter against the enemy AD, so they don't do too much damage when trading hits. Glyph of Magic Resist can help you against enemy supports, especially ones that run Spell Thief Edge, who will be constantly trying to land their hits on you to get their gold gain from the item. For Quints, I run attack speed, so I could get those stacks in my queue a lot faster, and also let you take advantage of Ashe's passive, which is already a damage modifier. Now let's move on to helpful tips for Ashe's skills. The first skill we're going to cover is Ashe's Focus. Notice here that when I volleyed, I got 1 stack from each target, amounting to 3. Now after I get 5 stacks, I could pop my Q in for an extra burst damage. Again, it's important to note that you could use your volley to get stacks on your focus. This allows you to get your focus stacks a lot more quicker and thus have a higher damage output in a shorter amount of time. Use your Q to clear dragon quick if you're positive you won't be fighting soon. Similarly, you could use your Q for a faster jungle clear. Just make sure you get your focus stacks first before popping in your Q. Sometimes you may find it best to actually save your Q rather than to use it when pushing down a turret. Here you'll see these words come into effect when Udyr initiates on me and doesn't expect the burst damage from my Q. Running right after you volley is a good strategy to get free harass. This concept is used to keep you a safe distance from your enemy. Also keep in mind each target your volley hits applies a focus stack. So far I've gotten 3 and I need 5 to activate the bonuses on my Q. You can prepare your Q for a team fight that you think will happen soon, safely, when you harass with a volley this way. The point of this clip is to demonstrate a good Hawkeye, and you'll also get the honors of seeing an awesome arrow as well. So here we are, we have tri-warded, and we need vision up ahead. This is because Wukong wants to dive Sivir. We know our try is safe, but we don't know what's ahead. So I send a Hawkeye to give us information that'll help us decide if we want to pursue or not. At this point, the vision isn't going to help us secure the kill, as Wukong has already committed, but this is just a demonstration which I hope you could learn from. The red line represents the Hawkeye's pathing, and the white circle vision. If we were short-sighted, we would have only Hawkeyed that bush and have no vision on flanks up ahead. Meaning, of course, we would not have seen Leona. Now at Hawkshot's final destination, we see another enemy incoming from red bush. So it's really important to Hawkshot at vantage points and to think strategically beyond wondering what's in the nearest bush next to you. You'll see Hawkshot used only on one camp. You can use your Hawkshot to see multiple camps at once. For instance, if I had Hawkshotted between red and Wraiths instead, we would have seen the enemy Lee. At level 2, I grab Hawkshot. This is because they have an Eve, and map control is crucial to countering her. This Hawk was not the best, because we only got vision on one camp. At minimum, you want at least 2 camps seen when you Hawkshot. For instance here, between Wraith and red, and also here, between Golems and red. Here's another Hawkshot where we see our goal of 2 camps, blue and wolves. Another Hawkshot where we see blue and wolves. Again, noting through this example how important it is to see 2 camps with your Hawkshot. Here we spot Vi finishing off blue because of this principle. If you know the enemy is doing dragon, you could also send a Hawkshot to get an accurate dragon timer. Also take note of the vision that Hawkshot gives when it's on its route to its destination. We saw them recalling briefly, so mathematically we could deduce that dragon had just been completed less than 10 seconds ago. We're rotating to dragon and a Casa Creep has vision on us, moving towards the objective. Sometimes you may want to sneak dragon and Hawkshotting can give away your position. In other cases, you may just want to break the sneakiness and Hawkshot for vision to safely secure dragon or for a safe back after your team kills dragon. You can also use your Hawkshot to scout for your support so that when they ward, they can do it safely. At late game, you may want to throw a Hawkshot before securing your red buff, just for extra measure in case any creepy crawlies are around. Hawkshot is also commonly used for scouting on the other side of Dragon or Baron Pit. We need to bypass their wall, Alistar. So during this fight you'll notice that Ashe temporarily moves upward to assist her team with an arrow. Though she arrowed the enemy backline, it's important not to break formation and still attack the enemy frontline in these fights. In the second part of the fight, watch how Ashe constantly is moving while still attacking the enemy. You'll see Yi commits pretty hard after this dragon. Ashe finds an arrow not necessary in this situation. After Yi dies, she finally unleashes her arrow that she's been saving for Sivir. After killing off Sivir and Janna, you'll notice that Vlad arrives with a TP. Now Ashe's team dishes out so much damage, she stands still knowing he won't be able to compete. The arrow is also great for catching out of position enemies who extend beyond their means. We have lane vision due to deep wards, so we know Riven isn't here. The arrow is a great tool to take advantage of people when they're out of position, and to force fights when they're in your favor instantly. When someone rotates freely, it's very easy to predict their path. So long as there is no reason for them to do a sudden jerk of movement, then it's basically a free kill with the help of your allies. Here's another clip of the same principle, where someone's rotating as if we don't have vision, and there's no reason for him to be afraid. So though Ashe misses her arrow here, she has the right idea by trying to focus Kalista and Ahri with her arrow. Now here's an example of a bad arrow. Now why would you arrow that way, when if you targeted the inhib, you would have not only gotten Rengar's escape path, but also any allies that happen to be there. Now here's where a hawkshot betrays your favor. Here Ashe hawkshots before arrowing. The arrow doesn't land because Ahri is on alert after seeing the hawkshot. If Ashe hadn't hawkshotted and arrowed this very predictable path, she could have gotten the kill. Killing out of position and catching backliners. Great for catching people staying after a deep push. Countering high damage frontliners like cosplaying ribbons. Chasing them when they back from the fight. And preventing or stalling enemy engages, while securing major objectives, such as Baron, Dragon, or any tower push. Let's move on to laning. First I want to cover some counters you may find in game. You'll often see Sivir, especially in this meta. She has a spell shield that can block any spell, but she can only use it once every couple or so seconds. Olaf has an ultimate that makes him invulnerable to any CC. Morgana has a spell shield that she can cast on an ally that can absorb CC and spell damage so long as the shield doesn't break. And Alistar and Gangplank have a cleansing spell. Now some lane opponents you've got to watch out for are Ezreal, Caitlyn, and Graves, all of whom have the potential to dodge your arrow, so when trying to land your arrow, you have to keep this in mind. Additionally, from these champions, there are a couple of things you got to keep in mind, such as the 3 items, Quicksilver's Sash, its upgraded version Scimitar, and also Mikhail's Crucible, all have a cleansing effect that can cleanse an enemy from your CC. And of course there's also Flash to watch out for, where an enemy can easily dodge your arrow if they're attentive enough. So watch for champions that have cleanse abilities or cleanse items, and also watch for champions with Flash-like abilities or simply running Flash in the first place. If they are running summoner spells like Cleanse or Flash, make sure you track down the timer. Check out this video made about accurately timing enemy summoner cooldowns.
This
is Sparta!
Alright. You should definitely try potential enemy champions at least once, such as Kalista, who has an interesting ultimate. Her ultimate allows her to pick up an ally even though they're stunned. So you have to watch out for that before committing to a fight. When playing against Sivir, you have to keep track of her spell shield. She uses her spell shield against my volley, so we commit to a fight. We're talking about it so much, so here are the cooldowns for Sivir's spell shield. Also keep in mind that Sivir tend to max their spell shield last. Sivir uses her shield to block my volley, so I commit to a fight. I commit to a fight because of 2 things. 1, because Sivir uses her spell shield against Janna's Tornado, and 2, Alistar uses his W and Q. So, I flash without fear of being punted into the turret range. And because of all those circumstances, I can get a clean getaway. In this interesting lane fight, watch how Ashe runs forward when Sivir and Thresh has her cornered. She knows Sivir has her shield, so she pops it with volley, then arrows quickly while she still maintains aggro. And the answer is yes, she does get away from this engagement with the help of Morgana. In this clip, you'll notice that Sivir uses her shield after Ashe uses her volley, so she has to wait for that spell shield to run out before she could arrow. Unlike this leash in the clip, you want to make sure you give your jungler a good leash. Here's a clip of a better leash, where Ashe takes her time to help Lee Sin get a faster jungle clear. As you'll see in these clips, you'll be able to give your jungler a good leash and get to lane without missing a single CS. Here I'll zoom up ahead so you can see for yourself how I could reach lane without losing a CS. In the case where you happen to be in jungle early, say for an enemy invading and stealing the camp, make sure that you clear the small creeps, but only do this if you happen to be in jungle. Don't deny yourself of lane experience to clear the small jungle creeps. Because Ashe crits frost-shotted enemies, you sometimes want to volley first to apply that frost shot before basic attacking. Watch out for minion aggro when starting an engagement, especially for Ashe, who has no escape. This clip is an awesome demonstration of how much minions can do to an ADC. As you just saw, Ashe had just lost about 150 health to minions alone. Look again at just how much damage Ashe receives from the minions. Vayne only auto-attacked Ashe once, and this is early game. The minions did about 250 damage. After receiving this harass from minions, you're not making it only easy for a jungle gank, which you'll see in this clip will happen, but you'll also be zoned from farming experience due to your low HP. You may find use out of the advice to carry one health potion if you can, especially early game, where the enemy support runs Ignite. It could save your life. Definitely keep track of your summoners and the enemy summoners when fighting. Here you'll be thinking why Ashe exactly chose to fight. I mean, she just barely escaped, but now she's in bush. This is because the jungler is already here, and she has a surprise heal. Watch as Alistar tries to get the last kill on Ashe. She pops in that heal at last second, which Alistar surely didn't expect. You'll definitely be wanting to save your focus stacks for when a gank happens. You'll notice that volley grants as many focus stacks as the targets you hit. During a split engagement, you may find use out of not using your arrow on the engagement that you're in. For example here, where I'm chasing down Thresh, I choose not to arrow him. I save my arrow for the fight down the lane, which as you'll see later, comes in handy. The idea of this clip is to demonstrate how to safely farm when there's a high threat near you. Volley's range is quite far, so you could stay a pretty safe distance away while farming away using your volley. Keep doing this and don't fall trapped into wanting to get that 1 CS so much that you're willing to risk your life for it. Again, the idea here is to volley, then run away immediately afterwards. Thus, by the time the volley hits the minions, you're a safe distance away from the threat. Now sometimes you'll need a little bit more extra gold before backing and your support's not there. So you could use your volley farming tactic to safely stay in lane and farm enough to get that first buy BF or your pickaxe. Another tactic is to get the minions low enough and to volley at an angle so that you could get all the CS and harass the enemy at the same time. The volley is also known for being self-destructive when farming. Watch as Ashe's volley in this clip ruins CS. Ashe's volley is a great tool to farm, but you can't simply point and shoot and expect to CS competitively. Though in this clip there's only 1 CS, the purpose here is to show you that angled volleys can help you get that CS without disturbing the other minions. This next section should give you some idea on how to counter an Eve jungler. The reason why I dedicated so many clips to Eve is because she can really snowball and not many players know how to counter her early game. Plus you'll often find her snowballing on the enemy bottom lane. So I hope this next section helps you out. Let's start with pink wards. Placing a pink ward here can help you greatly detect Evelyn from coming from behind. Also in this river bush here. Here are also some great spots to place pink wards to detect Evelyn when she's heading to a lane to gank. Here is another spot that junglers often don't go through, so even though it's quite deep, it's often that they won't check that bush and you'll still have vision. Sightstones can easily work just as well, provided that you ward in an area where her stealth is broken, for instance when she's doing a camp. If you notice she moves down from this camp, it's very likely she's going down to bot lane. Here are some other warding tips. When your support is warding, do them the courtesy of hawkshotting for them if the enemy is missing, or if you suspect the enemy jungler or mid is nearby. You'll come across pinks throughout the game. Be cautious when clearing them, as angry supports may start fights, and also the pink ward might even just be bait. let's move on to map objectives. When pushing, you can use your hawkshot to see how much longer you have to safely push before an enemy arrives. This is effective, especially in solo queue when split pushing. Note Ashe's positioning towards the minions to maximize your focus stacks that she can get from volley, though make sure you watch out for that fog. Volley is a great tool to harass the enemy. However, sometimes, it's best not to get carried away. In this clip, Ashe pushes her luck by trying to be an annoying ADC. Ahri takes advantage of her out of position and catches her. Ashe made the mistake of constantly going in and back out at a predictable rate. She could have baited an entry where she pretended to volley, but backing just before she did so, thus baiting Ahri in her ult and charm. Notice Ashe's positioning here in this blue invade. She knows the enemy is on the other side of the wall, so she hugs the left side as much as she can to ensure safety. Look at Ashe's positioning. She knows the enemy is going to jump in the pit, so she hugs the most left as she can, while still being able to hit Baron. This is very effective positioning. She's able to dish out damage to Baron, and also is in a position not to get caught by the enemy. Also notice her realignment for when Ahri comes out of her Zhonya's. She doesn't want to get hit by her Foxfire, so she creates a distance between her and Ahri. You'll notice in this backing of Baron, Ashe tries her best to keep up with her team in terms of staying behind her team, even while volleying and kiting the enemy. It's important to note how quick a team fight can turn. Always make sure you're ready to turn back to help your allies at any moment. During a dragon clear, it might be better to save your Q as opposed to just dishing it out on dragon. This is because of its long CD, and you might need the extra damage from your Q to use on an enemy during a team fight. Now sometimes your team just wants to get dragon and back. In that case, it's fine to pop your Q for that extra damage. Though again, in some cases, you still might want to save that Q, just in case for an unplanned fight with an enemy. Use your hawkshot to safely secure dragon, though if you are doing an incognito dragon, then sometimes it may be best not to draw attention to the pit with your hawkshot. Lee Sin puts a pink and scans the bush while off screen. I hawkshot their blue, and we have total map control near dragon. Enemy bot had just backed, and we see their jungler at top, so we're fairly secure at dragon. The only threat is mid, so I send an arrow for a potential kill. And even if we didn't kill Ahri here, we probably would have harassed her enough for her to back out and for us to safely secure dragon. Look at Ashe's positioning in this fight. You'll notice she backs off right away after she notices the teleport. She knows it's Hecarim and that he'll come straight for her, so she creates a distance as soon as she notices the teleport. In this clip, you don't always have to blindly follow your allies if you think that it'll get you into a bad position. Here you'll notice Ashe goes right around the red bush as opposed to following with Soraka versus Lucian. During this team fight, I'm going to cover a couple things. First, notice how I move to dodge Corki's big one. Constant movement is really important in team fights. Second, when Vi and TF engage on me, look at how close I hug the wall before I flash. Finally, when Thresh gets on me, you'll notice how I stay still and attack, as I wouldn't want to trigger the box damage, which would certainly have killed me if I had move. Ashe can still be valuable to her team even though she's low HP. Stay in the back line, throw volleys while maintaining a safe distance from the enemy team. When the enemy team is disabled, for example here, where Nara is rooted, Ashe finally comes in close enough to auto-attack. And it's also very important that you don't forget about the enemy threats in the fog, like Nidalee when she throws her spear. This is a clip of the same fight in a different point of view. You'll see we had a ward, so Ashe should have easily had a little bit more distance between her and Nidalee. During this fight, you'll notice I don't go for the person I arrowed. This is because it's unlikely he'll die before the arrow wears off. He still has Pool and Zhonya's still up, keep that in mind. So I can target either Leona or Lux. Initially, I go for Lux, until she zones me out with her E. I then switch focus to the fight down mid. Generally, you want to stay in the back line for most fights, but in picks, you can sometimes bypass your back line and the enemy front line if their skills are on CD. For instance here, where Ashe bypasses Alistar and pushes straight after Vayne. Now typically you want to avoid this positioning, where you're completely caught between two enemies. But once you're caught and you know for sure that you can't escape, buckle down and dish out the damage while you still can. You'll notice in this fight that Ashe constantly uses Morgana as a wall between her and the enemies. Most notably, when Italy starts going left, watch Ashe how she stands right behind Morgana. In this clip, Ashe knows that Nidalee retreated into the fog, so she throws a hawk shot. What Ashe also should have done was to hug the bottom wall to avoid getting hit by that spear. After Dragon, the enemy chases the team for a little bit. Ashe comes back to kite for Sejuani with her volley for a safe getaway. Look at how Ashe is moving while Malphite is chasing her. She's not doing this because she's scared of him exactly, but it's just in case his teammates come to back him up, so she slowly creates a distance between her and her enemies. Kiting is very important on any ADC, especially on Ashe who has no escape. Watch as she kills two enemies while still moving, and remember that you have a variety of tools to kite: your auto attack, your volley, your ultimate, and even heal for movement speed buff. A mistake made in this fight is Ashe not properly gauging the flow of the fight. Ashe doesn't realize that the fight is heading towards mid, and the Ashe in this clip guessed wrong, thinking that they would be pushed back. Thus, she missed her arrow. The Ashe plays this fight wrong because she makes an assumption that her team will push the enemy back, so she arrows way ahead and pushes up ahead. Because she's so ahead, she's all by herself and she has no arrow at all for any defensive CC. This mistake costs her life. When your team is dangerously low, throw a hawkshot to see any incoming enemies, especially for any creepy crawly champions like Nidalee and then Blanc, who tend to stay and try to do hit and runs at the end of team fights. I like to call these hawkshot assists, where you basically provide vision for your team. Not only does this help your team not lose vision on your target to bush or fog, but it also gives them information, like if the enemy has any other supporters coming up. This information can greatly help your team decide whether to pursue or to back off a team fight. Here's another hawkshot assist clip, where Ashe throws a hawkshot near the bush at mid, so that Varus can have more information whether to pursue his engagement further or not. Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in for this video. If you liked it, please subscribe to our YouTube, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. Thanks again guys, and I'll see you in the next video.